This is our third video in Unit 6 on multiplying exponents or product of powers. So if we're thinking of multiplying exponents, we're talking like at the basic level something like this. 2x squared times 3x to the fourth, okay? So if I'm multiplying those numbers, I'm going to, or those expressions, I'm going to multiply the 2 and the 3 together. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then I'm going to multiply the x squared and the x to the fourth together. Now when I'm doing that, and my base is x, I look at the 2 and the 4. There's 2 x's there, 4 x's there, so that means I have 6 x's. So 6x to the sixth. Okay, so I just added the exponents here. That's what we do on these. Here's our first problem. Find the area. So we have a rectangle with a length and a width. Well, remember the area of a rectangle is found by taking the length times the width. So we're going to multiply L times W. Well, the length is 3x squared y to the fourth. And we're multiplying it by the width. Negative x squared y. All right. The parentheses are just showing that I have a negative on that term, which is okay. If you want, you can put negative 1 in front. Whoops. A negative 1, okay? Now I'm just going to do our kind of our like stuff here. So again, we have a 3 and a negative 1. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Then I go to the x's. X squared here, okay? X squared and x squared. Again, I'm adding the exponents. 2 plus 2 is 4, okay? And then I go to the y's, the y to the fourth and a y. Now if you want, put a 1 for an exponent there. So y as y to the fifth, okay? Negative 3, x to the fourth, y to the fifth. Again, just to recap on this one, I multiply the 3 by the negative 1 to get negative 3. X squared, that's 2 of them. X squared, that's another 2 of them. 2 plus 2 is 4, so x to the fourth. And then y to the fourth multiplied by y to the first. 4 plus 1 is 5, y to the fifth. Another rectangle here, we're finding the area. Just going to do the same type of thing here. We do 4x squared times 9x cubed. All right, 4 times 9 is 36. X squared, x to the third. 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, 36x to the fifth. Here we have a couple problems where we're going to do some multiplying on number 3. Number 4 is a different type, so we'll wait for that in a bit. But on number 3, when I multiply those, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. Find the like numbers. It's like 7 and 6. Those go together. 7 times 6. 7 times 6 is 42. Now I have a 10 to the negative fourth and a 10 to the negative 8. So I'm going to multiply by 10, but we have an exponent. Well, remember, we're adding the exponents, the negative 4 and the negative 8. Negative 4 plus negative 8 we're thinking of here. Negative 4 plus negative 8. Negative 4 plus negative 8 is negative 12. So that's my exponent. If I want to go one step further and write this in scientific notation, I have to remember that my decimal is right here, so I have to move it over one spot. When I move it over one spot, That means I'm going to have to add 1 to my exponent. Okay, when I do that, that's adding 1 to the exponent. So it's now 4.2 times 10, negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11. Our second problem on this slide here, we have an expression, but we have values for our x and y. So we're going to start off by plugging in x and y. Negative 2 goes in for x, so I'm going to put negative 2 in parentheses. That is a negative base. And then y, I'm going to put 3 in parentheses, okay? Now remember, this is its own thing, this is its own thing, and then this is its own thing. All right, so be careful on how we simplify this. So my 3 here, I don't do anything to it. So that's going to stay on top. We put it on top by default. All right, so it's 3 is on top. That takes care of that. Now let's look. We have 2 negative exponents. Remember, we have to figure out where that goes. I have to change it into positive. So therefore, we have to make that fraction. All right? So remember, that goes to the bottom. So negative 2, now it's to the positive second. That takes care of that. And then 3 to the negative second, that's a negative exponent. So it has to go down on the bottom as well. Okay? Let's do some simplifying on the bottom. Again, the top stays the same. Negative 2 to the second, that's negative 2 times negative 2. So that's 4. 3 to the second, that's 3 times 3. So that's 9. What is 4 times 9? That's 36. 3 over 36. I have to simplify this. 3 goes into 36 12 times. So the 12 is on the bottom, 1's left. Again, 3 goes into 36 12 times. There's a 1 left there. So this is 1/12. Our last problem is our word problem for the day. Astronomers measure large distances in light years. 1 light year is the distance that light travels in 1 year, or approximately 5.88 times 10 to the 12th. Suppose a star is 7.8 times 10 to the 3rd light years from Earth. In scientific notation, approximately how many miles is it away from Earth? All right, so if we're thinking about what we're trying to find here, it's asking us to figure out how many miles, okay? So that means my answer's in miles. Well, let's look at our 2 numbers that are given to us. All right, so this right here represents the 5.8 times 10 to the 12. That's the light year distance, okay? Or sorry, that's actually the distance a light year is in miles, okay? So this should be like miles. This number down here, the 7.88 times 10 to the 3rd, that tells us how many light years that is. So that's what that one is. If I want to find the number of miles, I'm just going to multiply these 2 numbers together. Okay, so we did something like that earlier. I'm just going to multiply them together. 7.8 times 10 to the 3rd times 5.88 times 10 to the 12th. Okay, that's our problem we're going to do. You know, if you don't like how it's written, you can kind of change this up a bit and put them on top of each other. So I can do it like this. So now I know that, hey, these 2 are multiplied and those 2 are multiplied, okay? So if I do it that way, 7.8 times 5.88, let's see here. That is 45.864. And then we have our tens here. 10 to the third times 10 to the 12th. So again, there are 3 of them here, 12 of them there, that equals 15. Okay, so that's 10 to the 15th. Now it does say scientific notation. Keep in mind it says in scientific notation. This is not in scientific notation. That decimal has to move 1 to the right. Well, if I move it 1 to the right, that's adding 1. Okay, so I have to add 1 to the exponent. So when I do that, my final answer is 4.5864 times 10 to the 16th. And our label is miles. All right, there you have it. That's our last problem for the day. We'll see you tomorrow.